Into the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. We have a great show in store for you here today. Talking Watkins Glen, talking NASCAR playoffs, best bets, prop plays, expert analysis and data, and so much more. Stay tuned as we got a great show coming up. It's the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. Welcome in, everyone. It's the NASCAR Betting Preview Show, your favorite time of the week, and the chat is already going crazy. Let's throw up some of the things. Marcus is first almost every week, so tip of the cap to him. Appreciate you joining us. Happy birthday again from last week. He's asking the people who they're thinking on Christopher Bell again for him. So shout out to Marcus. Shout out to Kush for being in the chat. Brian as well. The other Brian, double Brian's. Here we go. Sean McBride. Appreciate that, Sean. Big Ross and everyone. Thank you again for tuning in. We are here now. It's the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. And, I'm joined now by Full Tank with Phil. Phil, we got Ryan from Win the Race. Guys, how you doing? Phil, we'll start with you. I mean, what sort of went through your mind last weekend and everything like that as we saw there in that crazy race and everything like that from Atlanta?
Well, I thought the race was a little more toned down than normal, than what we kind of expected for this like super speedway style. And, a bit surprised by that, to be quite honest with you. That Walmart sign really played a factor, I think, for quite a few folks. And for me, I was entertained by the race. Like as a fan at the end, you had the two sets of teammates fighting at the end. So that was fun to watch. As a gambler, I'll tell you this, it's the PSA for getting your future bets in before Daytona, because I didn't have anything on Logano outright, but I'll tell you what, once the checker flag flew and I kind of put two and two together, I realized my over hit on the win total for him. So it's just one of those deals where, you have those future bets out there. They come back at perfect times like that, where I'm feeling a little down that I didn't have them on my card. Boom, big hit for the future. So love those bets, and it came up big for me this past week. So happy about it.
Awesome. And Ryan, what about you? Coming up big? I know we were talking about a little lack of plays there and everything like that, but when it was all said and done on Sunday, did you have anything that you were riding with?
No, I stuck to my guns. I just watched it as a fan, and I thought it was. I played DFS, so like I'll always have some sort of skin in the game, just because I'm addicted. Let's face it. But I thought the race was, pretty boring. It's unfortunate that Sign came out at the end. Ran a lot of the end of the race under caution, and then of course, can't have a race without overtime. So it just, the ending again. I totally agree with what Phil said. It was cool to see the two teammates up there pushing each other. That was fun to watch. Overall, it was whatever. I know some Win the Race guys, Greg, he posted the Logano win bet as well. So I'm glad that, those guys got to hit it with Phil. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I'm ready for Watkins Glen. Curious to see what happens this weekend. But yeah, Atlanta 2. I don't know. I can't remember Atlanta. Was Atlanta 1 boring too until the end, or was that exciting the whole way? I think if I remember right, I thought Atlanta 1 was really exciting like the whole time.
Yeah, Atlanta 1 was like one of the best races, at least this season, especially to be right after Daytona. Yeah.
I think that's why I was a little bummed out. But again, it's a playoff race. Maybe they're just taking it, a little more cautious approach here. So, but is what it is. Let's move on.
Yeah. Well, we'll be moving on to Watkins Glen. And I think to stick with that, I also think Atlanta out of the playoffs next year is going to be a huge success because we'll be able to see a little bit more of the racing that we'll be looking forward to. Let's get back to the chat here before we move on to the next segment. Sean McBride in the chat, appreciate him. Big Tino, what's he saying about Joey Logano? Mortgage on him to win. We'll stay tuned for that. Brian saying he loved the Logano. Talking about Logano over under or over 1.5 wins there. So glad that happened. Sign screwed Blaney. I mean, it did. That's just unfortunate there. And then Phil talking in the chat as well with you guys. So another thing that I want to mention as we continue on in the show is this new segment here called the Playoff Picture. Since the NASCAR playoffs are in full force, I really wanted to be able to talk with you guys and highlight any of the potential scenarios or situations that drivers may be in and how that affects the playoffs. And if we have any potential bets that we could sort of maybe allude to earlier on in the show that we can get ready for down the line. If you guys in the chat have any questions on the NASCAR playoffs or comments on a driver that you think, for instance, first one I'll bring up is Denny Hamlin. What is Denny doing riding around in the back like that? I understand, he's put out some posts from his podcast saying that was the strategy for him. He hasn't gotten much points at a super speedway, was going for 20 there at least, and then still gets caught up in a wreck. So, Phil, we'll start with you. Was there a driver in this playoff field that you have your eye on now based off of them being below the cut line or above it to give a quick little scope of the playoff picture, at least the guys around the playoff bubble? We got Brad Keselowski -1, Harrison Burton -16, MTJ -19, Chase Briscoe -21, who got involved in that wreck with Kyle Larson. And then it's Gibbs +1, Denny Hamlin +2, and Kyle Larson +15. So, Phil, heading into this weekend at Watkins Glen, it is now the second race of the first round. Who do you have your eye on in this one?
Yeah, so I think if you're Kyle Larson, I think you just run your race. I think you ignore the points because they had their mulligan, but this is a good racetrack for them. So I don't think he needs to be kind of worrying about that just yet. That's just my opinion. The key factor is for the gamblers, and I don't really know quite how to apply it. I think it just should be in the back of our minds is that we're going to have guys that are going for points, stage points. And then you're going to have guys going for wins, which would mean they're pitting at the end of stage 2, like before, and letting other guys sneak in there for stage points because they don't care. So guys that are right on the bubble, I would think we're talking the Hamlins, we're talking the Ty Gibbs. And I would even say Truex, because I think Truex is a decent enough team, decent enough driver to be able to point his way in. I don't think he's must win yet. I think those guys are going to play the points game and try to get stage points to try to see how things shake out before Bristol. If you're a Harrison Burton, if you're a Briscoe, you're throwing everything. Like road course, maybe there's some sort of crazy strategy they can play and put themselves in position to make a run, because at Bristol they're going to be dead. So those guys are going to be kind of going for it because they have to, if they're being realistic with themselves. So it's just, I expect the guys right on the cut line to be kind of playing that points race, right around the stage points and capturing that stuff while they can.
Okay, all right, yeah, sounds good there. And I think another thing too that I want to mention in the chat real quick before getting to you, Ryan, was Big Ross in here saying the timer is going to dictate the strategy. I do agree with that, but at the same time, we won't really know how much that'll impact. Stay tuned to the next segment. I think I got a good question for the guys about how they feel about the tire. So, Ryan, playoff picture for you. What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I liked everything that Phil said. I agree with it. We'll talk about a bet later I have on a guy who's near the cut line here, and it's just like I'm comfortable placing it because I think even if he uses a strategy that might not be optimal for the win, I think he can get this place bet home, even if he's taking stage points. So, but again, we'll have to see. We don't know what these tires are going to do. Like I also read in the comments too, someone said like this is probably super overblown, which that wouldn't surprise me either. So let's just see what happens. I don't even know if we're going to have that much. We only have 20 minutes a group in practice, and not going to run that many laps. I mean, we're not going to know much until this race starts. So again, we'll get to it with the bets. I don't have much this week. I had 2 bets that I was confident in. One confident all the way around strategy wise as well, and another one where if he does employ this strategy of chasing points, then I'm going to need him to probably make it up in the end and get there. But confident that he can. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be that will make it fun because we're all going to go into this fresh, and there'll be some surprises. It'll be fun to watch.
And
Yeah.
and I just want to just kind of piggyback off that just to say this is kind of like a question because I don't know the answer. I'm just kind of throwing this out there into the ether. Like we're bringing new tires or this like tire wear situation into play during a playoff race. The teams don't know really what to expect. The gamblers, we certainly don't know what to expect. You'd have to assume teams have more information than we do, but still it's a playoff race. And then you're only giving them 20 minutes to figure shit out in practice. And then it's essentially go. Like, why not give them a long practice session to understand that stuff? I know I'm thinking of it from a bias of, from a gambling point of view. I want to see what this is going to mean for Sunday. But as a team, how are you not like, what the fuck, NASCAR? Like, give us some more time to figure this out because this is a big deal for 16 drivers. So that's just me kind of, old man yelling at a cloud. But I just don't
I
really
think you're right
understand that.
though, because I don't have the answer, but I agree with I don't understand why there can't be more time for practice, especially when I think the biggest thing that I've heard, and this could be from the Dale Jr. download and stuff like that, at least what they've said in the past, is that when it comes to like longer practices, longer weekends, they're just saving more money. And what it comes down to is money, right? For everything. So that's the only potential answer I could have is the fact that they just want to save time and save money. But when the teams want it, the drivers want it, we want it, it's frustrating for sure. Brian in the chat saying, any takes on the stupid added bump things in the bus stop? No curb now. Didn't this destroy the cars at Coda or somewhere in the past? So I'll give a quick take on this. I don't think it's the exact same ones as Coda. I could be wrong. I did check the picture out on that. And although I know it is, I miss the curbing and the normal way that the bus stop looks. I know that the reasoning for that was like the friction from the drivers going up and down that was like going crazy, giving, potential injuries there, and everything like that. So I will, although I do miss the regular curbing, I think it is a step in the right direction to prevent injuries and prevent, friction of going up and down those bumps. But if anyone has any takes on that, keep it coming in the chat. Let's move on now, though, to some rapid fire questions. But appreciate everyone in the chat. Keep the comments coming. We'll keep getting to them. And now, so for some rapid fire, this one will be a little quick and easy for you guys. At least it is for me. Ryan, we'll start with you. Rapid fire question. Watkins Glen is the best road course in NASCAR.
Well, it's in my home state of New York, so I'm a little biased, but I do enjoy it. I mean, I think you can argue that it is, right? It's kind of fun. It brings some of like the old school guys in. Like I would think this is like one of Brad K's best road courses. Not like he's great here now, but has been good here in the past. I guess we can talk about that too. I think the landscape has changed though. Like so yes, some old school guys have had some good runs here, but like I guess another topic to talk about would be I think this field is way more skilled now in road racing, and you got guys like SVG in there, and I don't know, and these guys on the Sims, Reddick, Byron, all these guys are way. I think the field head to toe. Like there used to be just your road course ringers, then the other guys would race there, and if you were fast, you'd be good. But now there's like actual good road course racers, and the cars are more equal. So I don't know. That's a whole other subject. But yeah, I do think Watkins Glen is awesome. The best. I don't know. You could argue that all day, but yeah, I'll say my home state road course is the best.
All right, Phil, are you going to argue it or are you going to stick with the 2 for Watkins Glen here?
I'll stay with it. Obviously, if I was going somewhere else, it would be Sonoma. I don't know if it's just like they're the OGs. Can't be anything other than that. And I something about Sonoma where it's like, all right, summertime's coming. Just like the vibes around it. I've always wanted to go to watch a race out there. But I think Watkins Glen has produced some decent finishes in the more recent time. So yeah, I'll go with Watkins Glen. I won't argue that. Can't argue with two New York fellas.
Yeah, please don't, because it's now 3 for 3. Watkins Glen, not only the best road course, I'm gonna say it's the best track because it's my favorite. Wearing my Watkins Glen shirt here now, was there last year, as you guys can see, and I will be back. This is an official announcement. Tino Patino will be back at Watkins Glen this weekend. If any of you tuning in will be there. come say hi to me. We'll be wearing the gold jacket and everything like that. I'll stand out for sure. So I'm super excited for that. Super excited to be back at the track, potentially talking to drivers, fans, team members, you name it. I'll be there creating content. So stay tuned for that. And I'm excited because Watkins Glen, it always hypes me up. Like I said, I'm a New York guy, so there is some bias there. But let us know in the comments there if you guys agree. Watkins Glen, best track, best road course at least. But now moving forward, one more rapid fire question for you guys. Phil, we'll start with you here. So after Atlanta, Chase Elliott said that, you know, the winner of this race will probably come within the top 5. And for a second, I was like, oh, maybe that's because he's worried about the tires or something like that. And then I digged in a little bit deeper. At Watkins Glen, 16 in the last 20 races, the winner has started inside the top 6 at this track. So my rapid fire question to you here is, does that trend continue? Will we see a winner start inside the top 6 this season?
Yes. I dig into those track stats every week on my podcast, and 6 in a row inside the top 5. 67% of the time in the history, 40 races at Watkins Glen, the winner has started inside the top 5. It's a track where nobody has ever started outside the top 20 and won the race. So, like, yes, you have to qualify well if you want to put yourself in position. And to us, what does that mean? We're trying to get value on guys that we think are going to perform well on Saturday, so that, you know, we don't have to end up taking a gassed price on guys that we see are good on Saturday. We're trying to predict like who will do that. So it's the best way we can try to, you know, make a little bit of money. And then on Sunday, see what the prices end up being, and you make some, you know, sacrifices there on guys that are starting inside the top 5, maybe top 10. But it's a very good point, and it's valid. There's no getting around it.
Sweet. I'm glad we're both digging into the data, because no one knows data better than win the race. Here we go, Ryan. Different rapid fire question for you here. The last one to close out the segment is going to be in all 3 road course / street races this season. Hendrick Motorsports has won it. William Byron at Coda, Larson at Sonoma, Alex Bowman at Chicago. Rapid fire question: does Chase Elliott win at Watkins Glen?
Oh man. I don't know. He can. He's not number 1 in the pre-practice and qualifying ranks on win the race, but he is, you know, firmly inside the top 10. So I have his teammate Larson 1 right now. So yeah, I'm gonna say no, he will not win, but I think he'll be really good.
Okay, and quick follow-up: is it going to be a Hendrick sweep then? If you're thinking Larson number 1, all signs are pointing to Hendrick Motorsports dominating these road courses.
I think Hendricks could easily sweep this. Yeah, we could see that.
Okay,
So
that'll be all right.
I haven't bet it yet. There's some other Chevys, as we know, that are probably going to be pretty tough too, and on the winning, you know, optimal winning strategy. So, but yeah, I think Hendricks has a shot here to sweep it this season. Be kind of cool. Well,
Perfect.
I guess we got Roval left, but
True. But so far, it's been all Chevy. It's been all Hendrick Motorsports. And now this brings us to the ride or fade segment here. And Phil was talking in the chat we have. Phil was saying, you know, he's got a good one for us to potentially bring up some discussion. So everyone in the chat, tune in now as we listen to what Phil's got for ride or fade.
It's funny because I texted these guys earlier and I said, look, I had a discussion point to bring up about head-to-head matchups, because the head-to-head market, I thought, is pretty like razor thin. I always feel most comfortable with head-to-heads. Like, I end up with 3 to 5 that I really like. I can get some data points behind it, and I'm confident in. But this week it's tough. Like, it really is. They did a good job. But the funny thing is, as good or as tough as some of these matchups have been, there are some books that are throwing like crazy numbers out on guys that are matched up against each other for no fucking reason. So the one that got my attention that I wanted to bring up, it's almost like the opposite of super speedways, where this goes to what Tino just brought up about starting position, like where these guys, the guys that are supposed to be good on road courses, typically finish where they're supposed to finish. And as opposed to last week where it was like, I can't take a head-to-head plus money. This week, I'm fine taking minus money. And I wanted to assess the limits here of how deep you would go, because on Bet365, AJ Allmendinger is minus 200 up against Juan Pablo Montoya, who hasn't been in a race since I think like 2014. He's driving a third 2311 car. Ryan, on your pre-qualifying ranks, this is the biggest difference I've ever seen. 19 spots difference. I don't know how you even try to handicap Juan Pablo. God bless you. But the difference there is huge. Is minus 200 like just absolutely crazy? Because there's a few matchups like that. We've got Truex, huge favorite, a similar number over Briscoe. Like, do you even dip your toe into that world, or are you just like instantly shut off because it's too big of a number? That's why I'm interested. I wanted to hear what you guys thought.
I think that if you find value in it, then it's worth it, even if it is minus 200. Problem is, it's like it is NASCAR. It is a super volatile sport. AJ's running like you said, the secondary call-in car, the third call-in car, like the redheaded stepchild of the call-in cars. But he's been decent in it before. And the 2311 50 is maybe the biggest piece of shit that we just never thought it would be. So I don't know. I thought that if they had a third car, it would be okay, but it is way less than okay. And then, like you said, a guy who hasn't raced in over 15 years. Is that right?
I think it was
Around
2014 might have been his last race, but I could be wrong.
Over 10 years plus. So yeah, man, I don't know. I'm gonna you guys talk about it a little more. I'm gonna go in Discord here and try to punch it in and see what the sim would say if the bot's up. Give me 1 minute.
All right, so here's my take. I think, I mean, I do think, as bad as the 50 has been, we're talking about Juan Pablo Montoya. Like I'm gonna give him a little bit of respect. I'm put some respect on his name. Not that anyone isn't, but the fact that although he left NASCAR, still racing IndyCar, right? Still driving left and right. So to me, I mean, I wouldn't hate betting in that matchup again. Who was he against? You said AJ Allmendinger, right? And AJ's the minus 200. So what would JPM's odds be there?
Plus 165, I believe, is what it was. I can pull it up now, but
Sim Center has it fair at minus 331.
Holy
and
shit.
So this would be the highest rated bet on the Sim Center right now to take
for AJ's side.
For AJ's side, yeah, you take the minus 200 for your largest bet of the weekend.
Okay, well, I have it currently parlayed with the Phillies money line as we speak. So if the Phillies win, then I get like plus 120 out of it. But yeah, if they lose, I'm going to go right back to the well. I understand what you're saying, Tino, but I'm heavy on not heavy. I like AJ this week. I think he performs well at Watkins Glen. And the analogy that I gave on the pod was like fall road course season is AJ Allmendinger season. Like he ends strong. He starts the year, you bet on him, he lets you down. And then when we get to this point of the season, you're like, fuck him. Like it's like fantasy football where you bench a guy and then he goes out and performs well. Like this in the Roval. These are the races where he performs well, pretty consistently. So I'm interested in AJ, and that minus 200 number I found funny. Now, Greg's on here. He wants to talk about AJ. I don't know if that's good or bad, but yeah, Kyle posted plus 220.
I was just texting with Greg, so I know what it is. It's good.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we would all take that. I don't have Bet365 here, otherwise I would take that right now. But
well, the Briscoe plus 225. Like, I wanted to get inside the mind of like everybody here, because you're either yes, the favorite's going to dominate. It's worth throwing extra units at it to get yourself more money, or you're of the side of like Kyle here, who's like plus 225 for Truex or Briscoe over Truex. Like that's interesting because you're kind of fading this run that Truex is on right now, which is dismal. So I wanted to see if people would be into that kind of a vibe. So there's just razor thin matchups. And then there's these like guys who like, why are they even paired with each other? It makes no sense. So I figured that would be a decent talking point here.
It
Yeah,
was.
it
I
is. I
think one
know.
other one. No, yeah, you can go, Ryan. I'll have
Well, I was just
Ryan
saying,
up
I know
deck
like
here with that.
a lot of when the race guys were parlaying, I think it was like Gibbs over Cindric and then the Truex over Briscoe one just to get a better number on it. Greg and I actually had the conversation of Briscoe over Truex to begin the week. And when I started looking into it more and more, I couldn't pull the trigger on it. But that Briscoe side, I was like, oh, hold on a second. And then, I really dug into it, but I just couldn't pull the trigger at the end of the day. But you are right. Like they are super interesting. And that's a sweet find with the AJ one. It sucks paying the juice like that, but I mean, a win's a win. So take it where there's value.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. Sticking with AJ for one more second, the fact that it like is valuable at that much minus money is a part that's crazy to me. Phil, I'm with you in terms of pairing that with like the Phillies or something else in order to get that little bit more value. Because that I'm jumping all over that at that point. Did you get it for plus money then in the Phil Phillies parlay? What do you
Yes.
got there with that?
Yeah, I think it was. I threw it in like earlier at like 7 something. I think it got me at like plus 124 or like 114 or something like that. But it was plus money. And the Phillies had Wheeler on the mound earlier, so like I was paying juice on both sides, but I ended up with plus money. So yeah, we're not here to talk baseball, but that's the point of it is like you could. And I said if they lost tonight, I'm going to go right back to it, whether it's a straight bet with Allmendinger or do it again tomorrow night because we have some time. But it's interesting that you said the Sim Center is minus 333 even. Like that's pretty wild. So it's just hard to handicap Juan Pablo. That's the thing,
Yeah, if you
And
notice in the pre-practice and qualifying ranks, he has a good track form rank, but I did even bump that down because it's been so long.
Yeah.
But he is good here. But then, obviously mine are like equipment adjusted and all that stuff as well. So like that just drags him down because that car has been total trash. So I just can't picture them like all of a sudden figuring it out and like, oh, here's a fast 2311 car for you, sir. It's like that's just not they
No.
can't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last point I'll make about AJ is like, if you are AJ, aren't you like, what the hell? Like he's driving my car, SVG. Like give him the 13. I'm the 16 car. Like I would, if I'm him as a competitor, I'm beating his ass this weekend in a car that is not mine. He's in my ride in the 16. I don't know if it matters all that much, but like still, to me, it's like, that's my ride. He's in my ride. So I'm going to beat him in this shitbox 13. And I think he could do it. So
It's a weird move after the announcement that he's going back to full time with that number. Like that's what makes it so weird. You're like, all right, well, okay.
Maybe it's
Very
just
weird.
a number. I don't know if it's the full team.
I think it is more than the number though. Like I think you're exactly right. Like 16 is better, 13 is worse. Like 13 is just there you go, ride around. Like I don't think he's capable. I think 16 is capable of winning. AJ is capable, but I don't know if the 13 has as much speed as everyone else. I do want to bring up though now, Brian in the chat saying only head-to-heads he really liked were the 99 over the 17 and Penske over front row at Caesars. Ryan, we'll start with you here. 99 over 17. I know Suarez is good at this track and road courses, but Buescher is the consistent top 10 road course guy. But Suarez also is trending in the right direction right now. So what do you think about that one?
No, I mean, I wouldn't take that just because Buescher's been phenomenal on road courses. We're going to talk about him in the next segment. And for a bet that I placed, and I know it's Greg's biggest bet of the week, on Buescher. So no, I mean this guy, he's not in the playoffs. He's running to win the race. So he'll be on whatever optimal strategy they think it is to win the race. That's what this dude's going to be on. So I wouldn't bet any head to head against him.
Okay. All right. Good to know there. And Phil, we're going to slide you your thought process with the front row or Penske over front row for Brian in this one.
Penske over front row. Yeah, I could probably get behind that. I mean, I guess you're nervous about Michael McDowell. But I got three bullets in the Penske team, and all three of them are pretty serviceable. I think McDowell overall, I mean, I don't have my stats on McDowell up in front of me with the full boat, but what I found, I actually dug into a Blaney versus Logano head-to-head earlier. And what I found was like Blaney's actually been pretty solid. If you're just looking at 2024, he's got like the third best average finish on these three. I'm using that with Chicago air quotes. 3 road courses so far this year. So he's been able to kind of keep it together. So I'd be fine with McDowell. I mean, you got Logano, who's got a good track history here, and you got Cindric, who's on a little bit of a high and is a road course guy. He's a super speedway road course guy. He's like AJ Allmendinger Jr. And he's got the momentum. So I wouldn't fade Penske, especially with 2 drivers, and essentially it's one. I know Gillen is pretty solid, but I don't think he holds a candle to the other guys. So I would go with Penske. Okay, you got Logano going. You got Logano free to do whatever the hell he wants. So
yeah, that was the biggest thing. And Logano being like pretty good at this track, or at least wrote, like decent there. And the other 2 guys. All right, now we're gonna move on to position props. This is the one that comes with a lot of juice, a lot of value, and a lot of things to talk about in this one. Before we do so and get to the guys and their analysis here, we're gonna swing it back to the chat, as I saw Big Ross saying he was surprised Alex Bowman top 10 is still plus 240. So Ryan, are you surprised that Alex Bowman's top 10 is still plus 240? Is that a position prop you would suggest Big Ross to take in this one?
No, probably not. I mean, I don't think he's ever finished better than like what 14th here or something. It's not one of his good road courses. And I know he's been excellent this year on the road courses. In my true performance ranks, he's ranked very high. But that is why I do the pre-practice and qualifying ranks, because that kind of normalizes everything. And I have Bowman, what is he hovering? I don't know, mid-pack, maybe a little bit better. So a little above average, but still outside the top 10. Just not something I really want to target when it's something that he's never done. Yeah, no, I don't really like it.
All right, Big Ross. There's the answer for you. We are not surprised he is plus 240. And then I just wanted to skip on the chat a little bit long. Brian saying points racing this weekend may not negatively affect drivers like it usually does if tire wear is as severe as they've said. Probably won't have guys flipping strategy. That is also good to know. And let's see, Greg chiming in as well. 14 3 times. That's the best he's done here. Can't buy him on this track. When the race is synced up and locked in from that standpoint. Phil, what you got?
Let me just comment on Bowman for a second. I think we should all hope that he puts himself, as long as we're all not playing the plus 240 for a top 10, we hope that he finishes around 13th, 14th, has a good day, makes his way into the next round, because I think Bowman is a nice sleeper pick to sneak in and win at the Roval. It's like his best, it might be one of his best tracks, like overall, if I'm remembering correctly. So let's hope that he has a good day, keeps it together, can, build off of that momentum for the Roval as far as turning right and left. And we'll come back to this in a few weeks.
Okay. I like that call out too. And keep in mind, Alex Bowman 6th place right now in the playoff standings. Plus, it says 27 from the cut line. So he's in a good position right now to keep that streak going and stay at least above the cut line in this one. Ryan, what do you have for us in terms of position props that you guys are looking at over there at Win the Race?
So I got 2 of them here. They're both still available on Fanatics, and they both could have a different strategy. So I think it's good to talk about both of them. The one with the larger number that I already mentioned earlier was Chris Buescher. We had taken this for a large amount at plus 220, top 10. It's now plus 175. Still valuable there. The sim has it fair at plus 139. He's top 10 in my pre-practice qualifying ranks in ninth. Top 10 finishes in both Gen 7 Watkins Glen races. And in all Gen 7 road races, he has 11 top 10s in 13 tries, which is tied with Tyler Reddick for the most. So he's only not done it 2 times. That's 85% of the time. If you were to equate that to odds, that's minus 560. That's obviously not how we do this. I just thought that was kind of funny. Even when he was with JTG, he had some decent runs here that would flirt with a top 10, like an 11th, I think a 13th. And then I like to look at kind of how the team does as well, because Brad, to me, is not a great road course racer. if there's any track that he's decent at on roads, I think it's this one. Perhaps that, gives him just a little bit of boost. If there's any information you can get from your teammate at all here, especially when we might see some tire wear, Brad's the king of that. Perhaps he can help Buescher along here. He's on the optimal strategy. He should only try to be winning this race. So hopefully that puts him there at the end, or at least inside the top 10 just to cash this bet. So it would only have to hit 37% of the time, and he's hit it at 85% of the time. So it just seemed like a silly number. So that one we're on, and I know Greg's on that for a lot. So the other one I have, and this one Greg and I disagree on. I'm on Ty Gibbs minus 120 for a top 10 on Fanatics. Greg thinks that he's gonna probably points race, which I could see too. He is right on the cut line, but I think it could go either way here. I think if he's got a race-winning car and he's up front, maybe he does try to win the race and just secure an advancement. I know he's never won a race before, but this is where I would like to target him to do so. He's great at Watkins Glen, brought a very fast car here last time out. And I just think that even if he does points race, he's a strong enough road course racer with a fast enough car that he should be able to get back inside the top 10 by the end of the race. That would obviously be the hope. And I know you're paying minus 120 here, but the sim has it fair at minus 144. I know that doesn't really account for points racing per se in our simulations, but I don't necessarily know he's going to do that. And again, like, what if the tire wear is bad? Then I think there's less of a chance people can do that, or you could catch back up at the end even if you did do it. I don't know, but I just think the number is kind of silly for the speed that this car has on road courses and the talent he has here at Watkins Glen. So give me Ty Gibbs minus 120 top 10, and I might be on an island of that on win the race, but I'm going to take it.
Well, I'll join you on that island for Ty Gibbs because I am really high on him in this one. I think another thing that is important to know, it doesn't affect necessarily with the cars being completely different, but he is racing in the Xfinity Series race at this track as well. So maybe just added reps, a little bit more confidence if he does go out and win, or at least have a strong finish there in Xfinity. Could provide a good boost for the people on Ty Gibbs. Let's see what Greg's saying, though. You mentioned you guys did disagree. It's not that I would fade Gibbs. I wouldn't fade at all. I'm just not willing to take the risk on him doing something funky right now. All right. Good to know from Greg. Phil, what about you? Thoughts on Ty Gibbs real quick, and then any position prompts if you have them.
We'll save my thoughts on Ty Gibbs for the next segment. Let's just say that. So yeah, the position prop that I was gonna throw out there, I'm in on this at minus 115. It's been sent down to this point at minus 170. But here's the thing. It's a over-under, and it's on Bubba Wallace. His number for over-under on Caesars is 21.5. And so what I'm thinking is going to happen, and kind of the way I handicapped this was, I'm just assuming that it's going to go down, that the line is going to move, and it's going to move to 20.5, which I'm fine with. You're essentially getting Bubba for a top 20. And if it moves, then the odds would adjust and you would get, a minus 115 there, which I would take again. But I got this at 21.5. So this is what I'm thinking here with Bubba, because his history at Watkins Glen is going to turn people off. That's why it's so high. Its average finish is 24.6 in the last 5 races. Not good. But here's the thing. We're on an uptick here with Bubba. 2023, last year, his best performance at Watkins Glen. It was a 12th place finish. He was 9th in green flag speed. It was not a fluky finish. It wasn't a strategy play. We ran in the back. He had a faster race car and was able to do it. This season, apples to apples, 3 for 3, finishing under 21.5. He's got a 16.0 average finish. And the other thing with Bubba is that he's starting pretty damn good. 11.3 average start. So not contending for the race win, but I don't need that. I need him to finish inside the top 20, and he's been doing that. Now, I'm also looking at all of the next-gen races on road courses. That's 15 since 2022. And Bubba has 9 top 20s. 7 of the last 8 road course races he has finished inside the top 20. It's a low bar, but Bubba is getting better. That's what you look at when you're looking at all those races lined up. He's just getting better at these types of tracks. So you got to hope. I mean, I don't know if you want to take it at minus 170 for 21. I would keep laser focused on this and hope that it moves to 20.5 and then snag it at whatever the line is there. Because I think Bubba's going to be inside that top 20. He's been there consistently, 3 for 3 already this year.
Okay, all right. A little Bubba action. What does the data say about Bubba Wallace in this one, Ryan, from Win the Race? Do you have any stats on Bubba?
For 20.5, we'd have it fair at plus 111. And then what'd you say? It was 21.5?
21 is what it is right now, 21.5, and it's minus 170 on Caesars right now.
Yeah, so the under 21.5 would be minus 128. Fair.
Okay. Yeah, so we're kind of right in that weird spot where it's probably not worth taking it, but like I said, I'm already in on it.
To compare like other people who are putting numbers out on Bubba like that, Underdog has his over under right now at 16.5. So,
okay.
You know, maybe again, like you could maybe hedge that a little bit. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
See what happens. But
I
don't know if that number's right or wrong. I think that, you know, he has been pretty bad here, but I think in last race, you know, was what, no stage break. So, you know, he started 12th, finished 12th. That's kind of what that race was. So we'll see how he qualifies, I guess. But I think if he does qualify here, or if he's fast, I mean, he'd be on the race winning strategy. Hard to see him, you know, even be up there to have a chance to win. But maybe that advances his position a little bit so he can beat 20th.
All right. Hey, good to know. Keeping the vibes up for Bubba, talking about him here. One driver I wanted to bring up for a top 10 in this one was Austin Cindric. I'm seeing him best value at plus 190 at Caesars. Now, the reason I'm talking about Cindric is, yes, he, like Phil mentioned, he's a super speedway and road course driver. He sits right now in 7th place in the playoff standing, so pretty good there in terms of where I thought he would have a chance to advance, but being this high up right now is really great for that team. So the vibes are high. And not only this, maybe an advantage from the tire test. We don't know for sure. But Ryan, what do you think about that? Austin Cindric plus 190 is the value there. He did open at plus 130. So a little bit of increase in terms of the odds there. I'm just thinking from a tire standpoint, we've seen advantages before. Could this be another one for the 2-car?
Cindric, I am not interested in. That was for a top 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not interested in it. I just the sim doesn't like it at all. And I think we're like way off there. Like Cindric top 10, we would have fair at plus 495. So I mean we're just not even close. I don't know.
That is way off.
I don't think the testing like I remember we talked about that a little bit for Sonoma, if I remember right. And again, that's a little different scenario. That's like, I guess you're not really looking for wear there, like testing out the new service and all that. But I think I can't remember if they brought a new tire for that or not. Either way, testing there didn't matter at all. So I'm not really
sure. That was because the
repave
too.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know. Testing there didn't matter. I'm not really sure it's going to matter here either. I think there's a certain skill set you need anyways. And then if tires do wear, even if guys didn't test on it, they're going to be better at it than others, just from experience. So we'll see.
All right. Hey, good to know there. I got to hit up the chat now for Brian saying best top 10 he's seen with Cindric's teammate in Logano at plus 260. We did touch on Joey Logano earlier, just in terms of him and with the Penske group over Front Row Motorsports. So, guys, what do you think on this one? Phil, would this be a top 10 you'd play with Joey Logano at plus 260?
Well, I don't know. I actually, like I said earlier, I did some research on him versus Blaney, and I came out of it with Blaney. I liked him. I also think like if they're close enough to be racing with each other, like I think it'd be crazy to not give Blaney that point. I think you get a little loose. But you know, top 10, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean they both can't be running in the top 10. I think it'll be a crowded top 10. So I don't know. I don't know if I can get there with Logano. I just liked Blaney more out of all of them, and it's tough for me. So maybe on race day, I'll come back and give Logano another look, because even if he does qualify really well, what's he at? Plus 260, you said, Brian said.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope that number is still gettable and playable at plus money. So I'll come back to him on race day, see what they got. I don't hate Logano. It's just more recently he hasn't been. His better races are outside of the next gen era at Watkins Glen, and this season he's been, not lackluster on the road courses, but kind of similar to where the rest of his season's been. So
Yeah.
not, and I also think there could be an element to it where I know we're saying he could go for it, but they also just be looking ahead to the next round. You know what I mean? They're just going to be going through the motions. There's a potential for that. So it scares me a little bit. That's why I was on the Blaney side, and top 10 we'll see on race day.
All right. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And especially with Brian saying he's always been near the top 10 and just looks into decent results. I think to Phil's point, that's been Joey's season thus far. He's just kind of Nashville, a little bit lucky there. And even Atlanta, I mean, super speedway type of race. Joey's won there before. I think it all could fall in the same category. Brian, back to you. Any more position props we could talk about for Watkins Glen?
No, I just had the 2 for right now. I know that I did want to mention Greg. We talked about Dinger earlier, and he wanted to talk about him. He did post in our Discord the minus 120 that was out there. I don't know if it was on Rivers or where it is. I don't have it right in front of me, but that was for a Dinger top 10. So we are, definitely on board with that. I trust all of the research Greg always does. Puts a lot of time, a lot of effort into it, and we have Dinger fair for at minus 147 for a top 10. So definite value there as well if you can find the Dinger minus 120 top 10s floating around there.
All right, love that there. And of course, yep, check it out. Check Greg's research out as well. He's always doing the best stuff. And AJ Allmendinger top 10 seems to be one of the best plays of the week. Want to hit up a question from the chat here from Alfred. Alfred asking, how much are you guys upgrading playoff versus non-playoff drivers for this race? To me, I think that kind of means how much are we favoring them in terms of, how much are they going to go for the win rather than the guys in the field like SVG. We mentioned AJ Allmendinger, Chris Buescher, big time road course names that could potentially go out and race a little bit more aggressively than the guys going for points. Phil, we're going to throw that question over to you as we get into the next segment.
Yeah, I think what I've learned this year is I'm not scared of those ringers because this year, we've seen SVG, we've seen AJ, and it's still the Hendrick guys. So, to make me, I guess, I do think it's going to be like a regular. SVG is not a world beater, and we should trust the guys that have been there. So, if you are tentative about those guys, you're going to be giving up some juice. But I'll say if you can't beat them, join them. And what I mean by that is just take Chevy. Chevy minus 145 on DraftKings, I believe is the best number. It was FanDuel that got gassed down now, but with those, you get the whole Hendrick crew, even Bowman. You get SVG, you get AJ, you get Kyle fucking Busch. You get everybody that could beat you. So if you can't beat them, join them. Just group them all up, throw multiple units in there, and then you feel safe because you're not going to be beat by one of these guys. Trying to play individual outright. So that's what I'll say about that.
All right. Hey, good to know, Alfred. I hope that answers your question there. And we got to give another shout out to Drake here in the chat with the fire takes that I've been seeing. This one was funny where Josh Berry, Josh Berry, not known for road course racing. So true, Drake, like we said. And then another good one from him. Joey could grab a stage win if that presents itself. Definitely agree. I think they could be going for that now that stages, or at least stages with the cautions there, are back. Stage breaks, rather, in this one. And then Brian also agreeing with the AJ Allmendinger top 10 point. But now it's time where we find some outright winners in this one. Ryan, I know you mentioned you're mostly on the position props. Is there any drivers that, as we talk throughout the show, you may be leaning towards, you may put down a bet in the outright winner market?
Probably not until after practice and qualifying, and then we can truly assess what we think some of these guys' strategy will be. And I don't know if we'll be able to tell tire wear or not from practice, but I do want to see if we can, because that'll also kind of sway some things, some decision making. I did like what Phil said, though. The one thing that I did consider doing was just betting on Chevy because I do like that you get two of those college guys, road course racers, ringers, if you will, that are both going to be going for the win. There is no question why they're coming to this race. The only reason they're here is to win the race. So you get that within the Chevy camp, plus the drivers, like you said, HMS, who have won every single road course, have won like, what is it, 4 or 5 straight now at Watkins Glen.
Mhm.
Yeah, with
So, I
Larson and
mean,
Elliott, correct?
yeah, like that number seems a little silly. The Sim Center is doesn't like it that much, but when you start thinking about the strategy part of it, which the Sim Center is not going to do, then it starts to make a lot more sense with these guys that are going to go out there and try to win. So, yeah, man, if I had to make an outright bet right now, I would just be betting that Chevy line.
Okay. Hey, good to know there. And I said Larson Elliott. Can't forget Byron last year as well. Phil, what about you? Outright winners in this one. Are you sticking Chevy or are you going somewhere else?
Well, Chevy, I've thrown multiple units down on Chevy. So now I'm playing defense with some other guys for some longer odds. And I wanted to talk about Ty Gibbs again because he's 14-1 right now on MGM. And we talked earlier about trying to get ahead and on a Wednesday night predict kind of where the market's going to go. And Gibbs has qualified very well this year. So that would mean if you were to keep that going, I mean, he's got 2 second place starting positions and a 10th at Sonoma. So, if he's anywhere in that same realm, I think 14-1 disappears. And he's, the strategy situation, I get it. I get Greg's point in that conversation that he and Ryan were having, but I think there has to be, that competitive nature where you had it last week, at least you felt like you did, and you were so close to being locked in. And now you're going to a course where you're not too shabby. I mean, he finished 25th in his first start. All right, a little bit of learning curve there, but 5th last year on a very strong run. He finished 2nd in green flag speed in that race. Won the Xfinity Series race in 2021. This is definitely a race that he's got strength. And in 2024, he finished 37th at Sonoma, but had a really fast car at Sonoma before I don't remember what exactly happened to him, but he got knocked out of it, but very fast, 3rd at Coda, 3rd at Chicago. And so, one of 4 drivers with 2 top 5s so far this year on these road courses. If you get rid of Chicago, like Ryan from iFantasy Racing has done in his graphics, just the true road courses, as he calls them, he's 2nd in green flag speed this year, only behind Tyler Reddick, and he's 14-1. So 9th in the whole next gen road course era in average finish with less races. So he's just been getting stronger. Again, if you're looking at those races as a bucket. So in my mind, if I'm the crew chief and he's running 4th, 5th, 3rd, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't want to have to go to a Bristol night race next Saturday night and worry about this and just take my stage or my race points and go this weekend. Just assume you're going to be 15, 20 points to the good. Anything can happen at Bristol. So if I can lock in, I'm locking in. And then you get, the bonus points that come with it next round. So I like that number because I don't think it's going to be there on race day. And then last little throw in I have, if there's anyone, I mean, Ryan knows I work off of some of his rankings. Christopher Bell's at the same number. And Christopher Bell hasn't started well this year or in the last 5 at Watkins Glen, but it's the same number. And Christopher Bell's capable. He's a capable road course driver, 3 top 10 so far this year. And he's run good at Watkins Glen. So he's someone, again, I just don't know if that number will disappear because of his starting position stats, but both very good drivers deep on the board for maybe a sprinkle to play some defense.
I think that's the question is like, who's more, if they both qualify and set the top 5 and they're both running there, who is more likely to take stage points and just move on comfortably? I would think Bell, right? Because he's already safe. So it's like he could flunk out of Bristol and be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But like Gibbs, if I don't know how many points you can get, and depending on what these guys do behind you, what if you grab stage points and then I don't know. Like, I just
You're
don't
still
know. I
7
don't
to the
know if
good.
he's safe.
Yeah. It would
Yeah,
suck
like
to run 4th and only be like 9 points to the good heading into the night race. Like, that would suck. So you got to take it
like
if you can get it.
and he was great at Bristol. Great. Top 5 car, easy. He was out there leading laps. I mean, he looked great. And
Yeah.
you know, I know that, but I just still don't think like you can think, oh well, yeah, he'll be great again at Bristol. Like that's such an easy track to race. It's like no, that's you're gonna be worried, like you said. So I think I think Bell running up there, you take the points, you move on, is whatever. But Gibbs, I think, is more of a true wild card where we don't know what he's gonna do. Same with like Denny on down there. So, but I don't expect Denny to be running where Ty is.
Mm-hmm. I think Ty Gibbs in this one, I think I'm leaning towards him winning this weekend rather than trying to at Bristol. Like you said, especially with him now, first time in the playoffs, young driver. Don't put too much on him, especially with the pressure that the Bristol night race is going to bring to you. Yeah, and then the track will change a little bit. I know the tires will be the same in terms of how he did fare really well, or at least raced really well with that tire fall off like we saw. I wanted to note on Christopher Bell, though, too, because these are the two drivers where we're seeing him at 14-1 right now. Like Brian said, this closing line value is going to probably be the best of the ones that we'll see post qualifying. Christopher Bell right now, 3rd place in the playoff standings, plus 40 to the cut line. So Joey Logano's already locked in. We could kind of count that as second, honestly, in my opinion, since Logano's already on to the next round. Christopher Bell in second in terms of the drivers who are not. To me, with Bell in this one, I think he goes for the win rather than stage points. And I think that way because he can double up at Bristol. He is a great Bristol, driver and everything like that. Or at least last year was racing inside the top 3 for most of the race. I believe he won the pole and won the first 2 stages in Bell in that race last year. So to me, I don't know. I understand where it comes down to points racing and everything like that. But for Christopher Bell in this one, finished 3rd in this race last year, like I mentioned. I think he's just been consistently better at this track, and we could potentially get that. Brian also in the chat saying, this is when we need one of us from the community in the media center trying to price that info from one of these guys. Hey, I'll be there. So maybe that's my role, talking to Bob this weekend, seeing what he's got from us from a betting side of things. One driver that I wanted to call out from an outright winner standpoint is not going to be fun. It's not going to be flashy. And I don't want you guys to hate on me for it. It's going to be Kyle Larson. Now, the reason is plus 625 right now. Let's go back a little bit. 16 in the last 20 races has the winner started inside the top 6. So we got that. Well, Kyle Larson has started inside the top 6 in his last 8 races at this track. So to me, I understand the value is low. I understand it's Kyle Larson the favorite at plus 625. But wouldn't that be valuable to get earlier on in the week rather than later and seeing that cut down to an ugly plus 350 to 4-1 even? Ryan, what do you think about my analysis there? Would you be considering Larson based off the stats that he has qualifying up towards the front?
Yeah, that all makes perfect sense. I mean, and that's the driver that I have. I put a lot into my pre-practice qualifying ranks, and I make sure I try to weigh it in a way that makes the most sense. And he still came out number 1. So yeah, I mean, if you believe in it, do it. I haven't yet, but I haven't bet any outrights yet, like I said, and I might just do the Chevy thing, which would have him anyways. So, yeah, I think you just got to decide there. Are you trying to pick a winner, or are you trying to get that large group and pay a little juice for it? So, whatever your cup of tea is, I can get down with that. But the analysis you had makes sense. So, I like that.
Awesome. All right, that's always a good feeling. Now we'll go back to the chat as well. See what Big Ross saying Bella's always aggressive. That is true. Sometimes to his fault, but he doesn't see him being talked down from a win without his crew chief. I will say, Big Ross, Adam Stevens is back on top of the box, so hopefully he doesn't talk him down from that standpoint. But he is back now. And then Brian saying that's my task for the weekend. I'll salute to that. I'm looking forward to it. And Big Ross in the chat, appreciate you to commenting. SVG going to be plus 500 after practice and qualifying. So if that is the case, Phil, what do you think about SVG in this one? Right now, he is best odds at plus 800. If that is the case, we'd get the closing line value. But what do you think there from SVG for Big Ross?
I think he's right. He qualifies well, and so the value would go down. I I'm already into Chevy. So at this point, I'm either throwing more down on that Chevy bet because I don't want to have to pick and choose between all these guys. So, 5-1, it's like, great. I got a guy who looks good. I'm more so trying to play defense against that play with a couple sprinkles, like I said. But if he were to do that, I definitely think that what he predicted there could happen. And if so, I'll be happy about it.
All right, that sounds good. We're riding Chevy in this one. Now, for the next segment, it does say position prompts. Slight error there. We will be going into any of the best values or remaining plays we'd like to tell you guys about, which in the same stance there, keep commenting if you have any remaining comments, questions, concerns, anything you want to know from Win the Race, Phil or myself. Comment it down below as we're going to wrap up the show after this segment, and we'd like to touch on everything you guys want to know for this race weekend at Watkins Glen. Phil, we'll start with you in this one for any more best values here. Is there anything else you're taking a look at from this one? Hey, we also could touch on any Xfinity plays if you guys do have it there as well.
No, I don't have any Xfinity plays. I mean, I'll try to keep it short and sweet here, but plus 100 is a team bet that I'm seeing that essentially breaks down into a head-to-head matchup. It's RFK. I'm taking RFK with the plus money over RCR. So this is essentially Buescher versus Busch. And for the reasons we talked about Buescher earlier, like I think Buescher's pretty solid. They have similar numbers, but what I'll say here about Buescher is his ceiling is higher if you're looking at it. And similar to what I was saying about Logano, last 5 races at Watkins Glen, Busch's best races there are the 3 furthest back. In the next gen era, Buescher is 2-0 versus Kyle at Watkins Glen. And speed rankings in that next gen time frame is 4th for Buescher, 8th for Kyle. So he's got an edge there. This season, he's 2-1 head to head against Kyle Busch. And looking at all of the next gen as an aggregate, Buescher's the number 1 driver, 8.8 average finish. He's got 12 top 10 finishes. He basically doubles Kyle in both those stats. So the fact remains, like, they might be running around each other, both out of the playoffs. So it's kind of like a good comparison there. But I think the ceiling's higher for Buescher. And the fact that I'm getting plus 100 in that is the deciding thing for me when I took it. And if it were to go to like a tiebreaker, I got Brad Keselowski as my backup plan, as opposed to Austin Dillon on a road course. I'm wham bam, thank you, ma'am. I'm going with RFK.
Let's go. I love that one there. And especially too, one thing that I want to call out here in terms of Kyle Busch, I am happy to see him trending in the right direction and continuing to move forward and get better results. But I'm not saying Watkins Glen's a necessarily bad track for him, but for RCR, we haven't seen them perform at all necessarily this season, aside from the last, 4 to 5 weeks after the Olympic break. And those were at tracks where Kyle Busch was just great at. Like, super speedways are going to be locked in. We saw 2 of them in Atlanta and Daytona. Then at the same time, Darlington was one of his good tracks as well. I feel like for this recent Kyle Busch success and incline, it's been for a reason in terms of the tracks that we've been seeing. Big Ross in the chat saying Tyrone back-to-back parlay this weekend. And by Tyrone, we all know that's slang for Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs in this one. Hey, I'd like to see it. I'm actually going to pull up the odds there in this one on DraftKings, because that's what I know could cook me up a nice parlay. But as that's loading up, Ryan, any closing thoughts, any other plays that you'd potentially like to give out as we try to find the odds there for this one?
No, that wraps it up. If this was the best value segment, so if that's what it's supposed to say, then I think Phil found the best value in Dinger over. It's minus 200, but it's best value in the true definition of what value is in a bet. So minus 200, Dinger over Montoya. That's a nice one. I wish Bet365 would come to New York. So you could bet the minus 200 and then they could change it and make it minus 600 for you after you've already placed it.
Yeah.
It's called the Jordan Mason.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Update for Big Ross. Xfinity odds just aren't up on DraftKings at least. So that was going to be my quick help to try to see what the odds would be there. If anyone knows it, definitely let me know or put it in the chat. But I couldn't do it for you there, Big Ross. But I'll be betting on a back-to-back Ty Gibbs there. I think that would probably juice up something real nice and would give us something to root for as well. In the chat, a couple last questions here. So Two Shots saying, I bet $500 on Larson. Is it a good choice? I'll let one of the experts and professionals in this one when it comes to big value money unit plays talk about this one. Phil, would you like to talk about the $500 that Two Shot put down here?
Well,
there's only one answer. There's only one answer, and it's a real quick one.
You'd say it.
If it wins.
There we go.
I thought you were going to hit him with like, if you believe in it, then yes, it's a good bet. I mean, I think we kind of outlined why Larson is, someone that's going to be playing a factor in this race. He qualifies really well, qualifies top 5. That's where you want to be. And so if you're going to pick one guy to throw $500 on, he's not a bad bet. That's Kyle Larson at Watkins Glen. Like, he's one of the players every time we come here. So yeah, I think you're going to be having a fun race to watch with Larson, and hopefully he can get it done for you.
Yeah, there we go. All right, I agree with that there. As we scrolling down, hey, last call for the comments here in the chat. If you guys have any more questions, comments, concerns, any winner predictions or plays you'd like for us to talk about as we continue to close this show out. Miami Mike saying he can't wait for this weekend. Me too, Miami Mike. That's going to be a fun one. Brian saying Bet 365 is the issue why Vegas will always be the GOAT for betting. Oh, that is true. Vegas is Vegas after all. When in Vegas, viva la Vegas, viva la NASCAR. Alfred, thank you very much. The Gibbs parlay, the Tyrone Gibbs parlay should be around 60-1. Love it, because Xfinity should be like him going out and getting revenge from what happened last year. He was in position to win, and Sam Mayer took him out. So I love that. I actually really like that a lot. So, all right, that'll do it for now. Keep the comments coming if you guys have any. Phil, we'll start with you in terms of closing things out here. Where can people find you at in terms of all your other Watkins Glen analysis for this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. Full Tank with Phil is the name of the podcast. You can find me at Full Tank Phil on Instagram for the race day card, and Twitter, same handle at Full Tank Phil. So give me a follow. Let me know what you got. Love to talk shop, and everyone, good luck this weekend. And hopefully we line our pockets, because we got trucks back next weekend as well. Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. It's going to be a hell of a time. Close out the round of 16. So good luck to everyone this weekend. And I appreciate you hosting again, Tino. This is a fun start to the playoffs.
Yes, sir. Ryan, what about you? Win the race. And well, I guess I kind of said it, but I'll let you say win the race.
I think I see it. Yeah, it's wintherace.info. Doing 50% off your first week or month for the rest of the year. Come check it out. Anything data related, DFS related. If you like playing daily fantasy, there's projections, articles. If you're betting, we have the Sim Center, everything I've talked about tonight. Come check it out, geek out on it. And let's have some fun. I'll be on the show next week for Bristol, and then I'm waking up at 4 a.m. the next morning to fly down to Bristol on Thursday morning. So yeah, we'll have boots on the ground every day down there. I'm not flying home until Monday. So just in case Mother Nature pops up. So we're staying an extra day.
Love it. Committed.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But thanks for everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the comments. That made it awesome. It's always so much fun. So thank you guys.
Yeah. Yep. Chat has been locked and loaded in. Appreciate everyone there for getting them in, and appreciate, the chat always bringing the heat there. So Phil, though, real quick. So if I'm going to Watkins Glen, Ryan and the team are going to Bristol. Does that mean you'll be going to Kansas?
There's a guy on my hockey team who is from Kansas, and he has always said, if you're gonna head out there for a race, you let me know. So maybe I have to hit him up. I don't know.
Now is the time. But yeah, once again, appreciate the chat. Appreciate Derek Yoder for letting me host the show again. Appreciate Seth and everyone from IBT. A lot of appreciation going on. A lot of good vibes this weekend as we head to Watkins Glen. You guys can find me at Tino, PATTIGNO, on social media. I'll be posting any content from the track there, so be sure to stay tuned in. Drivers, fans, anyone that's on the track, if you'll be there, I'll be wearing the the gold jacket. So try to find me, SiriusXM, NASCAR Radio, Auto Racing Digest, Sports Wrap with Jason Page. I'm all over the place this weekend in terms of NASCAR betting, and you guys can tune in Front Stretch and my podcast Through the Gears there as well if you want a little bit more Tino one-on-one action there. So appreciate everyone for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week as we continue on the NASCAR playoff racing action, betting action, and winning action. This has been the NASCAR Betting Preview Show.